You're listening to the More Than a Worship Leader podcast. Here's your host, Gary Durbin.
Welcome to the More Than a Worship Leader podcast, where we talk about worship leading in the local church. Today with me is Jason Cork. He serves as the coordinator of worship arts at Malone University, where he channels a lifetime of experience in music ministry into training the next generation of worship leaders. He serves also as an associate pastor at Living Vine Community Church in Stowe, Ohio. He and his wife, Melissa, have two children, Sadie and Matthew. So Jason is also my friend. And so I'm glad to have him on the podcast today. Welcome, man.
Thanks, Gary. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So where are you at right now? What office are you at?
So this is my Malone University office.
Okay. Nice. So this is a Friday we're recording this. Is it quiet there today or?
It is very quiet. So freshmen move in next week and then the rest of the students the week after. So last couple days to put on the finishing touches of getting ready for the semester.
Yeah. And we were just talking before we hit record about both of us leading worship this weekend, and we both have our comfort zones. My comfort zone is the acoustic guitar, and yours is keys, and we both like flip-flop. So like this weekend, I'm leading from keys, you're leading from what, acoustic?
Leading from acoustic, yep. So I have to think through the set differently and just lead. I mean, I just lead totally differently from a guitar. Have to think through more of what I want the keyboard player to do, and because I'm just so used to flowing it with the keyboard that it's a bit of a switch in gears for guitar.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I have been practicing a lot this week because I am the keyboard is not my comfort zone, but I have really scheduled myself leading worship like all weekend on the keys. So we were just talking. I was like, it's good for us, right? Like we're not. I know that was my surprise, people watching this, but we're not in our 20s anymore leading worship, but we still have to stretch ourselves, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And my calluses in my hands. I mean, because I don't play guitar enough. But I'll tell you, I'm more passionate when I'm playing with acoustic
Hmm.
because I really connect with the guitar differently. I can feel the instrument. I can feel it against myself. So I'm definitely a different leader when I'm playing acoustic.
Hmm. That is interesting. Yeah, I think it depends on the song for me. Like
Mm.
when I'm on keys, I should say. Like I think it's maybe certain songs that I just really enjoy playing. Like one of the songs we were singing this weekend I call it a deep cut. It's kind of a nugget that I found. It's called Faithful and True by New Life Worship.
Oh, okay.
It's got a really cool groove to it. And
Yeah.
it's just fun. And I actually enjoy being on the keys when I'm leading for that song. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah, it's good stuff. So here in a minute, I want to throw you a curveball question. Uh, and the question is, you've had many years of leading worship. We'll talk about that. But I want you to think about a time that was one of your most embarrassing moments on stage leading worship. Those moments that keep us humble. So I'll just giving you a heads up that
Hmm.
I'll ask you that question. But
Got it.
first tell me about your journey to Malone. Like how did you know God was calling you there? How did you get there?
Yeah, it was about 3 years ago. I had been at my church in North Olmsted for about 4 years and, been a worship leader for many years. And I heard it said recently that men, when they go through midlife, they either take a different turn and dramatically change their approach to their career, or they go through the midlife crisis, right? So I wasn't going to go buy a Corvette. I wasn't going to go leave my family and start over. But I was sensing God's calling to a different season. And to me, I kind of describe that as a step back. I've had my time in full-time ministry and doing everything. And I just felt I've always loved the development process and the leadership development. And so 3 years ago, I began a Master of Arts in Ministry at Indiana Wesleyan. I'll finish that in about 2 months. Because after I was here's how I would describe my experience. I'm a trained musician, but a self-taught theologian. where a lot of people are the reverse when it comes to worship leading and ministry. And so I really wanted to kind of solidify my understanding of spiritual formation and theology, and it's done that. It's been an amazing experience for my seminary. But really was thinking about three goals. I was either going to work at a university, I was going to be an executive pastor, or I was going to work at a conference level. And within a couple months of starting my seminary, I got a call from Malone that they were looking to start this worship arts program and they were interested in having me apply. And so all of a sudden, I'm doing two out of the three, and I'm not even done with seminary yet. So,
Wow. You, I mean, you said executive pastor. It kind of made me think like you must be one of those rare breeds, like a creative but administrative. Is that right?
yeah, administrative is one of my spiritual gifts. And I didn't discover that. This is really interesting how I discovered that because we as musicians, I heard this a long time ago from Gateway Worship Training. We think that our gift is our identity. And we're always wrapped up in, oh, that's a singer, right? Like you're a good singer, so therefore you should be on the platform. But it wasn't until I lost my voice for a few weeks. I had scarring on my vocal cords back in 2000 and let's see, when was it? 2014, 2015, and I had to lead worship without singing for 3 weeks. I actually typed on a computer and had a voice talk to me to communicate with the team. But it was that time when the Lord said, "You have more to you than just your singing." And then I really started to kind of lean in and understand that, yeah, in addition to exhortation and all these different things, administration is a key part of how I've approached ministry, and I actually am really passionate about it. So it's nice to be able to do both.
Wow, that's like a heart of worship kind of moment for you, isn't it? Like, I mean, it's wow. I mean, the Lord allowed your voice to go away for a season,
Yeah.
and you had to discover what worship was without singing, and also leading worship without singing. That's amazing.
Yeah. And one of the challenging parts of that journey was I wanted to go to seminary back then. And the pastor that I was working with said, "No, you're just a musician. I'll pay for you to take some more music classes, but all I want you to do is sing." He didn't allow me to share between songs. I didn't lead the AV team. I literally just sang four songs in a service twice on a Sunday morning. And I was so passionate about the Big C church and connecting with other worship leaders and looking at the church holistically. And I kind of think of it like, when you're in the trenches of ministry, you're at the ground level, but you need people to look at it at a little higher level and a little higher level. And so my comfort zone is just at that 10,000 square feet level. I want to see how everything's connected. And so as I began to have ideas, I wanted to share them and I wanted to be a part of building the ship. But in that situation, I wasn't allowed to be. So it was not until wow, probably, 8, 10 years later that I actually had an opportunity to express some of these desires and gifts.
Wow. Hmm. Yeah, and if there's any like church leaders or pastors listening to this, I think it's a good thing to note that you might have leaders that are working under you or you're raising up that might have a calling in their life. They might be feeling a pull to be, more than a worship leader. That's what we're talking about here. And I think it could be a detriment to them, to the church, to you as a pastor to hold them back from that.
Yeah. What do they say? If you're either growing or dying. So I think positions constantly have to evolve. And I think the conversations of what does the next 3 years look like? What are the goals for the position? We should always be thinking about working ourselves out of a job and like you're doing, having someone come alongside of us, because boy, isn't it the worst transition to finish your time at a church and then walk away and then they have to start all over when they hire a new worship leader?
Mm. Yeah.
So disruptive. But if we can gradually transition and transition all the time so that it's more of a natural process. And I think that's what's so cool about being this age is, I've experienced similar situations from different seats. And you take everything you've learned with you and you have a different perspective. So I just love to, this is what I say coming to Malone. I just want people to make different mistakes than I did. If I can help them learn from the mistakes I've made and make all different ones on their own, I think I've done my job.
Yeah, and allow them to make mistakes. Like,
Yes, for
yeah, my,
sure.
my first worship leading job, I just absolutely am so grateful for, and the first pastor I worked for, because he just let me he let me make some
Yeah.
doozies, man, and didn't crush me over it, just allowed me to grow through it. So I'm really grateful for that, and that was very, very shaping for
Mhm.
me. Um, and so I'm grateful. Hey, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for watching this podcast, but also, if you would you mind subscribing to this podcast? You can just hit the subscribe button, hit the little bell. It honestly takes a click and 2 seconds. It would help me out a lot. So thanks so much. So I want to talk about Malone University.
Mhm.
Before we do that, let's talk about your possibly one of your most embarrassing moments on stage. Did you have one that came to mind?
Probably the most embarrassing one came when I'm going to pull from when I used to sing in retirement communities in Florida. And so I bring my sound system into a space and I'd sing like 45 minutes of Broadway songs and Frank Sinatra. And I did it hundreds of times. So it really was a great preparation for leading worship. Um, and I was able to communicate the gospel without saying Jesus to people that would never come into a church. But the most embarrassing thing that ever happened was I had to go to the bathroom right in the middle of the set. And and so I literally had to say, excuse me, folks, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Went off the stage and came back and continued the show.
So, so what did they do when you were gone?
I mean, they just sat there. I think this was one of those shows that was like these huge retirement communities in Florida. They have like all kinds of groups that meet during the week. So this was probably some women's group that met at 1 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. So they couldn't do anything but just sit there and wait for me to come back. So,
Wow. I had a singer one time run off the stage for that very reason. Like at the beginning of the this service, and I just looked over and she was gone. I went, "Oh no." And she came back.
yep.
So that's good. Well, it's those moments are good, man. They keep us humble. That's what I like sharing those and hearing those. So, well, let's talk about Malone University. What will you just kind of quickly describe what Malone is like, where exactly it is, and what your specific responsibilities are?
Yeah, so Malone University is a Bible-based university, the only one within about an hour and a half radius of this area. And so we really feel a calling to equip the church and to equip people to serve not just the church, but also in the community. And so Dr. Miller has been our president for about 5 years now. I got to know him before I came to the university through the Friends Church, which is where Malone is founded. And he just has a real exciting vision for restoring the university to its original purpose. We're an evangelistic university, which means that many of our students do not know Christ coming in. 60% of our students are athletes. And so I look at that and I go, wow, like think about the difference between leading at a church where most of the people that are there are saved, and then you move into a university setting where half the people in your chapel service don't even know Christ. And so basically his vision is to like I said, really serve the church and equip the next generation. And so my role as coordinator of worship arts, there's three parts to it. One is we are a part of the music department. So we have three music degrees on campus. We have just a general music degree, a music education, and now we have a Bachelor of Worship Arts. So I coordinate the degree, working with the curriculum, oversee all the coursework, coordinate the internships that are part of the program. I advise. We have 4 students right now in the program, so I'm the advisor for those students. And then, as a part of that degree, of course, I work very closely with the university to build awareness of the program, and definitely involved in recruitment and kind of spreading the word that we're here. Second part of my job here is I support the office of the campus pastor. So we have a weekly chapel service Wednesday mornings, and I play on that team and I coach the leader who's a part of that. And then also we have a student-led service every Thursday night, or every other Thursday night. It's called Celebration. So I coach that worship leader. And then we have what's called Fireside, which is every other Monday night, and that meets in one of our residential halls. And so my worship leaders take turns leading that, and that's just no tech. Just pull up a guitar and a cajon in a circle, and they're going to be leading that all semester long. So that's kind of the second piece. And then the third piece of my job is we're officially launching our official travel team for the university. It's called Redeemed by Grace, and I coordinate that team. And I have a student worker who is basically running the whole team. He's doing a phenomenal job, setting up all the bookings and creating all the promo and the merch, and so that's right underneath the admissions office. And that specific role of that team is to build awareness and become an ambassador for the university. So those are my three areas that I lead. And then the final thing that I'm working on is I'm creating a worship ministry network where I'm really spending a lot of time getting worship leaders connected to each other in the community, because I feel like our job is not only to educate our students, but also to provide educational opportunities for Northeast Ohio's worship leaders.
Yeah, and I've had the privilege of getting to know you and hear your heart, and also get a peek behind the curtain of kind of what you're thinking and possible conference stuff in the future. You never know what's God's going to do, and love your heart for that, man. That's great. So I also love that you're a worship leader in the church still, in the local church, alongside what you do at the university. So what do you think the role of a Christian university is in the body of Christ?
Well, I think one of the things is definitely to provide resources for the local church. I get a call every week from churches asking for a worship leader, and I wish I could provide them. But what the best thing I can do is provide opportunities for area pastors and churches to get involved on campus, to get to know our students, and to be a part of the mission. So also I think that one of the Dr. Miller's visions is for the university to be a hub for the Christian community. So that means that we want to see people that are involved in churches in this area coming to campus, and we want to see the opportunity for us to go to the local churches. So there's resources on campus. So something as simple as, if a church wants to hold an event and needs space, we want to be able to provide that. If we need subject matter expertise from our faculty, if we need resources and internships and students. So I think the biggest word is resource. Provide an opportunity to not only provide information, but also to give a place for other churches to connect. There's so many great churches in this area, so many wonderful leaders, and I just really think we're stronger together. So if we can get on board and help each other on things, then we're all stronger because of it.
Right. So how long have you been at Malone again?
So I'm starting my fourth semester. So I started in January of 2025.
Yeah, and I've seen you do a lot of work already. How are you seeing God work already at Malone with your mission, with your heart, with your vision for worship arts?
So one of the things that I felt right away was, with all the obstacles in my path, I don't have a fully formed anything yet when I'm starting, but I think the first thing God asked me to do is to add value to my students. And so when I started last January in my first worship arts ensemble, which is the class that I teach, it's a modern worship band, basically. I had three students, and I kind of had to start, right? So from there, networked a little bit, and all of a sudden had six students. And one of the first things we did was we took them to Worship 424 at Cedarville. And I just couldn't believe watching these students who had never been to a worship conference before. All of a sudden, their world just expanded, and Charity Gale was leading that year, and they got to sing behind Charity Gale, and it was a remarkable experience, right? Roger has become such a great friend and mentor at Cedarville, and so the ability just to do that. Let's get in the car. Let's go to Cedarville. Let's and he Roger said to me, he said, we're kingdom minded here. We're going to help each other, and so that experience alone. But you know what's so cool is by by doing that. And the president said that, the biggest value you can offer these students is your time and you. So just by walking alongside of them, by always making time for them, by listening, we just had our first graduate, and she's placed at a church in the area. And she's already texting me saying, "Thank you for being so specific in rehearsals, because now I understand how important it is as I'm leading my own team," right? So I'm amazed at the pace of college. I think church ministry sometimes feels really slow. College and university pacing is super fast. Every semester is a reset. Every semester there's things that are changing beyond my control. And so I would say just walking along the students and allowing the experiences I've had to shape and form how I coach them, how I encourage them, and just understanding what the values are that I want to bring to the university. I think we've seen tremendous um, fruit from that already.
Very cool. So there's a lot of options out there. If there's a young worship leader who's feeling a pull to lead
Mhm.
worship in the local church, they can go to college, not go to college. Um, but if they decide to go to college to pursue this, as part of Malone University, what would you tell them? What are the benefits of coming to Malone and getting the education there for their future?
I think one of the most exciting things we have an opportunity to do is build the program together and immediately give the students opportunities to have practical experiences. The things that I described. My students are leading worship on campus. They're getting a chance to travel to different churches. They're immediately, like last year, we had a chance to lead for Medina Christian Academy's retreat. It was 2 weeks into the semester. So I had a brand new student start, and then 2 weeks later, we're leading this full retreat. That to me is huge. Like you said, opportunities to make mistakes, opportunities to serve. And I think there's something really powerful about going to a university in the area where you live and where you're planning on living, because an important part of this, I knew right away that I didn't have all the expertise and all the experience to do this on my own. So being able to lean on other worship leaders like yourself and other people in the area, to make a combined effort. I think so. So the idea that things are very approachable, and every person that goes through college, this is your journey. You have to make it, and you could go to Yale and Harvard and have a bad experience, and you could go to any number of institutions and make it your own and learn what you want to learn. So I think we have faculty that are tremendous. They're caring. They're here because of the mission. All of our faculty sign a statement of belief, and so they're available. They're here even after office hours. They'll meet with students. A lot of faculty have students in their homes, and so I think that the accessibility to the people that are mentoring you and their willingness to walk through it with you is probably our greatest asset.
Hey, if you don't know, I wrote a couple books. One of them is called More Than a Worship Leader. That's what this podcast was inspired by. But also, More Than a Band. This is good for your teams. I'd recommend you get those for your teams. You can get them on Amazon. It's good for rehearsals, good for retreats, to build into your team, to invest in them. I used it with my team, so I really would love for you to go check it out. You can get it on Amazon today. So there's church leaders, there's pastors, in all shapes and sizes of the local church. I mean, that would listen to this podcast. There's church leaders that are in small churches who are, needing someone to lead worship for them. And it's sometimes like a young worship leader.
Mhm.
And then there's the big churches that have Gen Zers that are coming on staff and leading worship for them. What would you say to those church leaders, that make up all those demographics that are leading this next generation of worship leaders? What advice would you have for those church leaders on how to lead them?
Mm. I think the shift that I'm seeing as I talk to more and more worship pastors and senior pastors is the churches that are, I'm going to use the word successful, that are being successful, are taking on the responsibility of leadership development themselves, realizing that in this era, and we've lived through different eras, right? We've lived through the scarcity of jobs where you put out 100 applications and you don't get one call. We've also lived in this era, which is every size of church is short on leadership. And so I don't think it's something that you can outsource anymore. I think we have to meet people where they're at. We have to recognize where God has called them or help them discover that through spiritual gift assessments or whatever. And then we have to equip them. I had a conversation yesterday with a church with a pastor of 100 people. His worship leader is leaving after 10 years. And it's an amicable split, just being led in different directions. But for a church of 100 who is renting from another church, so they really are kind of the smallest of the small. As I began talking to him, I realized he already had his worship leader. She was 21 years old. He also had a keyboard player, and I said, just meet her where she's at, and begin to pour into her and provide her resources. And don't be afraid to go smaller for a little bit. But I would much rather see, and maybe it's an intentional interim, right? Maybe there will be somebody. But man, I've been through the number of places that I've been, the harder it's hard to adapt to a new context, right? I mean, whenever you go to a new church and you're bringing somebody from the outside, there is always at least a year or 2 or 3 year process of adapting to the culture. And I just feel like overall, um, we're called to equip and empower the people that are part of our church, and we partner with churches, right? So we have students here who one of the larger churches in Canton, a bunch of their students are with us. And when I met with their senior pastor, I said, well, what are you asking us to do? They're really good at equipping. I'm sorry, they're really good at empowering, but they're sending their students to us to equip. So can we learn music theory? Can we get an experience of being in a large ensemble, of getting outside our box so that we can learn all these things here and then bring them back, right? That's what makes their church stronger. So if you get caught up and just kind of get in your bubble. So I think the drawback of developing your own leaders, sometimes you can get in a bubble and you don't have any outside ideas. So I love the combination of committing to develop your own. And some churches, they provide scholarships for their students to come and get a degree. So there's all kinds of different ways to do it. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing is, the old saying goes, when we put out an ad when we're looking for somebody for a church, we're looking for Jesus when we have a wish list, right? And that's just not realistic. We're going to hire somebody who is good at some things and is not good at others. And it's our job to help them get stronger and grow in those areas.
Yeah, and it could be a pastor listening to this that is not musical at all, doesn't know really how to lead worship in a musical sense. And they're going, man, I would love to pour into a young worship leader, but I don't have the slightest clue. It's kind of like me developing a drummer. I can kind of speak the language a little bit,
Right.
but I think the idea is asking yourself the right questions of how do I develop this young worship leader? How to, and once you start asking those questions, the questions will lead you to where you need to go. It's having the
Yeah.
heart, like you're talking about, not just to give responsibilities, but to actually see them develop.
Right. Right. And that's what I love about my role, because as I get to know worship leaders in the area, if I have a church that says, "Hey, I need help," 9 times out of 10, I'm going to pass them on to somebody I know in the area and say, "You know what? I think Byron could help you with this one. I think," and I've noticed worship leaders are just the most generous people. giving of their time, right? And I'm just meeting them all shapes and sizes, and I'm excited because that's what's happening in the network is people are networking, they're finding. I say it like this: we're all different parts of the journey, and there's going to be somebody that's facing the challenge that you're facing right now, and they've been through it. So much better to learn from experience by example than by experience. So that's at the heart of what I'm trying to do with the ministry network.
Yeah. We have a mutual friend with Roger O'Neill over there at Cedarville University, and I asked him this question. I'll ask you as well, is when you think about the the students that you're seeing, the students that you're working with, what are you seeing in that generation as far as, to give some insight into developing them, into mentoring them as worship leaders?
One of the interesting things I'm seeing is a lot of our students are coming from larger churches. As thinking about the country, there are more and more people a part of larger churches. And so the large church experience from someone growing up is very different from what you and I grew up with, right? I mean, I grew up in the era of special music and singing right before the sermon, and I've got my tape accompaniment, and I'm nervous, and so they're much more comfortable with technology and earbuds and all those kinds of things, but they're not as comfortable talking with adults. When I took my first couple times going out to churches, it was really hard for my students to interact with people they didn't know. And so I think we've been so segmented in terms of age groups and in terms of like, well, think about a worship team, right? So if you're singing on a worship team at a large church, you're really tight with the people on the worship team, but then you're in the green room between services. You're not really interacting with the large church population as much as maybe we did when we grew up. So those soft skills are things that we're really trying to develop, and really also I want them to experience all different types of churches because we also know that throughout our career we will probably be at several different types of churches. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be at a small church and then as you progress, you're going to be at a big church. It could go in the opposite reverse, right? Like you could go from a church of 700 and then God says, nope, I'm going to call you to a church of 100. And so the leadership skills of being a generalist at a smaller church, being able to lead worship and teach a Bible study and go visit someone in the hospital and do all these different things. Like I really want my students to be well-rounded because the chance is that if they're right out of college, they're going to go to a small church. If they're going to be a second hire after a senior pastor, they're going to be doing all kinds of things in addition to leading worship. So they need to be ready for that.
Well, that's why I love having you on today on this podcast, because that's the whole heart of it, is being more than what we see on the stage, being
Mhm.
more than the status quo, more than the stereotype, but being more than a worship leader where you do feel comfortable talking to people and to ministering to them and talking to them. And so grateful for your heart for that. Grateful for your work too, and your many years of faithful service to the Lord and his local church. So thank you for all that you've done and all that you do. If a student is listening to this and they are interested in checking out Malone, how would you direct them at this point?
Yeah, you can definitely check out our website, malone.edu. You can email me, jcork@malone.edu. We'd love to have you visit. I'd be happy to meet with you and talk with you about the program. Would love to have you check it out.
Fantastic. And I'll put that website to Malone in our show notes for this episode. But Jason, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you as a friend, but also a co-laborer in the ministry. And appreciate you coming on here and sharing today. I'm really grateful for you.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks for listening to this episode. Please add this to your podcast list, review it, and share it with others. And don't forget about Gary's books, More Than a Worship Leader and More Than a Band, available on Amazon today.